Are we accelerating death with some everyday choices we make? The answer is yes. Do our choices give us life and kill us at the same time? The answer remains yes. I will be reading two verses from the Bible, and before you leave, my podcast is not a religious podcast, in case you haven't heard my previous episodes. I just use the Bible because it is a book I know really well. I repeat, my podcast is not a religious podcast. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20, I'm using the New International Version. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price, therefore honor God with your bodies. A religious person may come to you with that verse of the Bible and tell you to stop sinning because your body is a temple of God. This person may say this while eating a double burger with large fries and drinking an extra large milkshake. I like these two verses. Let's keep them in mind throughout today's episode. Think of your bodies as a building, a temple, or even a house. Also, think of your body as a county with cities and their connecting freeways. It's another good analogy. Welcome to my podcast, Thinking Unchained, the podcast that unchains your thinking. This is your host, Unchained Thinker, talking to you. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Before I begin, I need to make a disclaimer. I am not your doctor. Follow the advice of medical professionals who know your medical history. Follow the professional advice of those who know what is best for your health conditions. Heck, you can follow your grandma's advice before you follow mine. I am not here to present you with evidence or data or an expert opinion. I am here to talk about taking care of your health by visiting what has worked for millennia. There are many reasons why our healthcare system is trash today. Many, many reasons. Healthcare organizations are responsible, pharmaceutical companies, laboratory and imaging companies, providers, healthcare insurances, society, and of course the patients themselves, etc. The book, An American Sickness by Dr. Rosenthal presents this well, and that is not what today's episode is about. Again, Dr. Rosenthal does a great job presenting why our healthcare system is trash today. Now, why our own individual health is trash today? Well, it is mostly our own doing, with a few exceptions, of course. Some people are born with congenital health illnesses or conditions. They were born that way from birth. They have a weak liver or a weak heart, weak lungs, weak organs, etc. They were born with health conditions. I know some also have some health problems brought by a draw of a short straw, just life being unfair to some. People who get cancers or health conditions because of exposure to environmental dangers. But many, do I dare to say the majority, have health problems from self-inflicted wounds. My hope with today's episode is to reach some of you in time to help you avoid these self-inflicted wounds, the teens and the 20-year-old young adults, and hopefully I can get to you. I know with the algorithms, my podcast will very likely not be recommended to this group, but I hope I can reach a few of you to take care of your bodies now. I like this quote. It is coming from the School of Life YouTube channel, and this is from the episode called Do This When Your Battery is Running Low. The quote goes, what will kill us in the end will not be one obvious thing, but many decades of invisible minor aggravations and low-grade frictions. Many, many aggravations, many, many damages, slow and minor. They all add up, and they are the ones who will kill us in the end. Keep this in mind as you listen to today's episode. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is the work to maintain health will never go away. You can never get to a point where you no longer have to take care of your health. This is for as long as we live, we will have to work to maintain health. But we either work to maintain our health or we work to treat a disease. The work never goes away. And believe me, if you think taking care of your health is hard, try taking care of a long-term disease or complication. I want to add that I don't like the saying, it's never too late. I hear that a lot. A person asking for forgiveness when in a dying bed, that is too late, in my opinion. I know someone can argue that it is not too late since the person was able to do this before they die. Sure, I may agree. Let's say I accept it is never too late. But I hope we can agree that there is such a thing as being late. If you have not taken care of your health and you are in your early 20s, you're already late. Not too late, but you're already late. Your organs are already tired. Taking care of your health needs to start as early as possible. The earlier, the better. And this is for organ function preservation. It is not to live longer, but to have health longer. Let me give you these two quotes by Arthur Schopenhauer, great philosopher. The greatest of follies is to sacrifice health for any other kind of happiness. The foolish thing to do is to sacrifice health for any other kind of happiness. The other quote goes, with health, everything is a source of pleasure. Without it, nothing else, whatever it may be, is enjoyable. Health is by far the most important element in human happiness. Love those quotes. My belief is that to have complete health, we need to have health in all three areas, though: physical, mental, and spiritual. I will focus on the physical health today. I may have another episode or a few others in the future to talk about the other two healths. Now, our parents ruin our relationship with food. Just another way they fucked us up. You can listen to episode 2 on that subject. They caused anxieties, and in search of comfort, we have relied on food. They also served us massive plates at a very young age and told us to finish it. Remember those days? Massive plates in front of us as kids, being ordered to finish it? So now what happens is we go to restaurants, they serve us plates that can feed 3 adults. One plate can feed 3 adults. And that little voice of our parents in our subconscious telling us we need to finish the plate is playing in our heads. Now, for us to take care of our health, we first have to understand what's going on. And this is something that I have found also on why people have so much health problems today, the lack of knowledge. And you can listen to my episode number 3 on that. We have lack of knowledge in everything. We don't understand our bodies. We don't understand nutrition. We don't understand medicine. So we need to gain that knowledge. And that's what I'm hoping to do today. But in order for us to understand why things happen, why our health is destroyed with the choices we're making, we have to understand functions a little bit. And the why question is always important. This is good for you. Tells you, I don't know, an expert, quote unquote. And you believe that expert. And you take it because somebody said, this is good for you. Question it. Why? Why is this good for me? What is this doing to my body? Why do I need it? The why question is extremely important. But we go by what we think is an expert on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. Those 3 places are filled with quote unquote experts. They all tell you sometimes something good, and at the same time, they sell you something that is going to help you. They sell you these ideas that we can do this for 28 days and your life will be changed forever. It does not work. It doesn't exist. If you do this for 5 minutes, this is going to change you forever. It does not exist. If you drink this tea every morning on an empty stomach, it does not work. If you have this capsule, you take it on an empty stomach at this hour of the day, it's going to make your life better. It does not exist. Work. There is nothing but work. And I'm sorry if you came here looking for that easy fix. There is no such thing as if you do this one thing, your whole health will be great. There is not one thing. If there was, I will be taking it. I will be telling my family to take it, and I will be telling you to take it. But there is no such thing. There is not a thing that can fix everything. It is work. But again, we first need to understand what's going on. I want you to start thinking. Remember, I made a reference to the city or a county with a bunch of cities and the freeways. I want you to think of your body as being a county. And you have to send packages from one city to the next. Those are your organs. The cities are your organs. They're sending packages back and forth. Through where? Through your veins and arteries. Those are your freeways. Now, I want you to think that your heart is that distribution center. That's the one that distributes. Big, massive warehouse. It receives and it sends. It receives and it sends. And it's doing that every day, every second of your life, receiving and sending. When those vessels, arteries, leave your heart, they are big. Let's make it freeways that are 10 lanes. 10 lanes freeways leaving the warehouse, leaving your heart. They're very, very big diameter vessels. 10 lanes leave your heart. And as they go away from your heart, these arteries become 8 lanes, 6 lanes, 4 lanes, 2 lanes, until they get to the kidneys, the eyes, the brain. They're only 1 lane freeways. Very, very small vessels. Red blood cells are the big trucks. They carry a bunch of stuff within them. They're the delivery trucks. They carry a bunch of packages. I want to hold on this one a little bit. So your red blood cells have this area called the hemoglobin. And this is just to explain a little more in regards to sugar. The hemoglobin is inside the red blood cell. So your red blood cell is a big truck. Inside or in the back of that truck, there is a place called the hemoglobin. The hemoglobin has another little tiny section. Well, the hemoglobin, by the way, carries iron and oxygen and sugar in this little tiny section called the A1C. And this A1C gets loaded with sugar. And sugar is sticky, so it starts to stick to the walls. And when a person brings red blood cells out of your body, they're counting how much sugar is stuck to the walls. Red blood cells on average live for about 3 months. Again, average. They may live a little less or maybe a little more, but these cells collect sugar in that little section called the A1C for 3 months on average. So when we bring them out, we look at that little area, and if we find a high percentage of sugar, that means that when this red blood cell was alive, this red blood cell had a lot of sugar surrounding it, so it collected more sugar. And that's how we calculate how sugar levels have been for the past 3 months. Not a perfect tool, but it's something that at least gives us an idea. That's why the A1C, you don't have to fast. And even if you live very, very, very healthy for 3 days before you go do this test, it will not matter. Your numbers will still stay high because this is collected over 3 months, all of this sugar. Remember, that's the average life of a red blood cell. So in the freeways of the body, we have other stuff going through our vessels. Fats, sugar, salts, vitamins, minerals, everything. So those are the little cars, the little motorcycles. Now, I want you to keep in mind sugar, and I'm going to focus on sugar because it seems to be the most dangerous of all the stuff we're putting inside our veins and arteries. And it's almost a root to a lot of problems. So I will focus on sugar, but I want you to think of fats and salts and minerals and vitamins also going through your veins and arteries. So the more we have of these things, the more traffic we have in our veins and arteries. But sugar is a big molecule compared to the rest of the molecules, very large, And sugar, I want you to think of it as being pieces of crystal. So they're glass, broken glass. Even if you dissolve sugar smaller and smaller and smaller into its smallest pieces, it's still crystals. So when you look at sugar under a microscope, sugar water, you will see a bunch of broken glass inside of it. It's just crystals. But I will be focusing on sugar a lot. But again, I want you to think everything. Now, for people who smoke, this is extremely dangerous. Nicotine is a vasoconstrictor. What does that mean? Your vessels constrict, they become smaller. Instead of a freeway of 10 lanes, you now have freeways of 5 lanes, 6 lanes. I'm just using a number here, but you get the point. You are losing lanes by reducing the circumference or the diameter of your vessels. They constrict, they become smaller. You lose lanes. That can cause or make traffic worse because you go from 10 lanes to 5 lanes immediately whenever you smoke. That's nicotine. By the way, if you stop smoking, nicotine addiction lasts only 3 days. After 3 days, you're no longer addicted to nicotine. You're just addicted to the behavior. And maybe I'll talk a little bit more about it later on when I talk about stress. But smoking, it's one of the worst things you can do to your body. Drugs, putting anything straight into your vessels, basically. Drugs that go straight into your vessels. Anything that you smoke, it goes immediately into your vessels. Takes only a few seconds for anything you smoke through your lungs. Anything, it makes it in 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds to your lungs. To your blood. It's very, very quickly. So smoking, one of the worst things you can do for your body. And that includes marijuana, by the way. Anything you burn and you inhale, it doesn't matter what it is. It will cause problems. Our lungs are not designed for that, or they're designed for absorbing, but we're using it in the wrong way. But they're very good at absorbing. So I kind of want to make that clear. The lungs are excellent at absorbing, but now we're giving them drugs. And they're not meant to do that, okay? Now, sweet drinks are the second worst thing you can do for your body. Whenever you have a sweet drink, and it does not matter. I know some of you are now telling me fruit juices and anything that comes with sugar in liquid form, it's bad for you. Anything. If that drink comes with sugar in liquid form inside of it, it's bad because it takes only 5 minutes for that sugar to hit your bloodstream. So if you have some sweet drink, lands on your stomach, within 5 minutes it's in your bloodstream. Rush hour. Think rush hour. And this happens to every person on earth who consumes sweet drinks. This is not necessarily something specific for people with diabetes. Every human on earth will get rush hour whenever they drink something sweet. It hits the bloodstream quickly with a massive force, and it causes congestion. Blood sugars go up. Even if you don't have diabetes, it becomes a little thicker, right? More traffic, more congestion. So blood starts to move slower. So here we go. Slowing down your blood flow. It's happening everywhere. It's happening from one organ to the next. Every package is getting delayed. But I want you to think of your feet. The farthest away from your heart, the last to get any blood, they're usually the first to suffer. But in the case of males, erectile dysfunction can happen because you need good blood flow to your sexual organ. But women also. I know this seems to be something that we focus so much on men, that men have erectile problems. And if you have a lot of sweets, a lot of sugar, it starts to block those vessels in your organ, sexual organ. And then you get erectile dysfunction. But women start getting dryness. They also have trouble arousing because they also need good blood flow to their clitoris. So this is a problem for both. The more sugar you have, the thicker your blood becomes, the slower it moves, the harder it will be to get an erection or to have orgasm for females. So we have to eliminate sweet drinks from our diet completely. Every single person. If you're an athlete, you probably know, professional, by the way, you probably know that you only drink about 4 ounces of juice, Gatorade, and then you go back on the field and you burn it off. That's okay, right? You are getting a measured amount, about 4 ounces. You drink it, you go back on the field. That's giving you that energy and you're burning it. The problem is drinking it, and then I'm sitting down when I'm doing it, or drinking it and not burning all of it. Excess is the problem, right? If I have a bunch of sugar in my vessels, then it starts to kill me. That's why I asked, is every choice we make killing us? Yes. Every time we eat sugar, it's killing us. Now, it's also given us life up to a point. It's given us life. The same sugar that is giving us life, it is in my vessels, it's in a baby. That sugar is causing damage in those vessels. But of course, when that sugar level is low, the damage is slow. When that sugar is high, the damage accelerates. And that's why people can get accelerated complications from having high blood sugars. But we all need sugars. Sugar is not evil. It's just the excess. Diet drinks are not any better. So please don't think that you're doing anything better by having diet drinks. And that's why I don't like the word zero in front of them. There is nothing zero about them. They come loaded with artificial sweeteners, artificial flavorings, artificial colorings. Where do you think all of this artificial stuff is going to? What do you think is taking care of all of this artificial stuff? The kidneys and the liver. So even though it may not be affecting your sugars, it's still affecting your kidneys and your liver. So diet drinks are not in any way better. Fruits, we have to be very careful with them. 1 or 2 fruits per day. The rules for fruits, don't have them on an empty stomach. Don't have them after 3 p.m., which brings me to the topic of desserts. We shouldn't have desserts, but if we must, it should go after breakfast, not after dinner. If we eat anything sweet after 3 p.m., it stays in our body longer. We don't have time to burn that off anymore. So fruits should go in the morning with breakfast and with lunch, not after dinner. Definitely not dessert after dinner. So it's the worst time to have dessert after dinner. But 1 fruit in the morning, 1 at midday. If you must, you can have up to 2. But of course, you don't need them. If you don't eat them, don't eat them. But you can have up to 2 fruits per day. Rules are not on an empty stomach, not after 3 p.m. Now, when we talk about food, the healthy plate, what do we have in a healthy plate? We have proteins. Now I want you to start thinking of your body as that temple, the building, the house. Proteins are the walls of your house, your body. It needs to make muscles and it needs to build. Those are proteins. By the way, you can get proteins from animals, from animal products, from nuts and seeds, avocado. You can have vegetable protein, legumes. They also have proteins. So you can get these proteins from animal products or plants. And as long as you have proteins, we need them. Remember, we need proteins to build. So proteins is something we need. Don't have them in excess, though. I know there is some diets that focus on having just proteins. I want you to think of it from this perspective. Anything in excess, it doesn't matter what it is. Whatever you're having in excess is causing problems. Excess is the problem of our society. It's not the food. It's not so much what we're eating as it is how much we're eating and also when. Many people are eating all day of all times of the day, at night, before bed. But proteins, there is a limit. What is the limit? This is when it becomes extremely difficult. A lot of people come to me. How much can I eat? I don't know. Nobody knows. There is some formulas some dietitians will use to kind of give you an idea as to how much protein you can eat. But even those formulas are not necessarily the best. We don't know. Your height, your age, your metabolism, your gender, your activity level, your type of job, when you get up, when you go to sleep, there is so many things that come into play to know how much you need to eat. This varies from person to person. If you're very active, you're building muscle, yes, you can have a little more. If you're not, then you have to have a little less. How much? We don't know. Oh, but my neighbor is eating this much protein and it's working for him. Exactly. But it may not work for you. You are a completely different person. How much protein? You're going to have to find that out. And this is where it becomes difficult. This is the work I was talking about. I do not have the answer for you. Just find something that works for you. If I were a construction worker, I will be eating a lot of protein. If I'm not, if I'm sitting at a desk, I should be eating less protein. But again, the how much, that's your homework. Proteins are your building material. Carbs, another thing. We have put so much evil in carbs that we have forgotten how good they are. They are a great source of energy. We need carbs. We just don't need them in excess. It is not carbs that have caused so much problem in our society. It's the excess of carbs. But that's the energy we need to build our house. Then we have those vegetables. Those are your repairing materials. Your house needs maintenance. It needs to repair holes, broken walls. That's your vegetables. So what do we need in a plate? Proteins, carbohydrates, and vegetables. All three meals need those three ingredients. One for building, one for energy, one to repair. You can have a fruit next to it, and I will talk a little bit more about fruits later on fiber. The problem we have in today's diet, this is where the what we're eating is causing so much problem, is because we keep feeding our body with very, very poor choices. I invite you to read about the microbiome of our body. Some people even call it the gut brain. It's connected to our brain. You can read on the microbiome. If I spend time on the microbiome, I can spend an hour talking about it. So I'm going to simplify it. And again, I know there is experts out there, and the experts will probably not like it, but I'm going to try to simplify the microbiome so that it can make a little bit of sense. But if you want to go and read about it, please do. And this is called the gut brain. I want you to think of your intestines, all of them having lots of microbes. Thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands, I don't know. There is just a lot of microbes in our gut. There is, again, I'm simplifying. Let's say there is microbes that will digest donuts. There is another microbe that is going to digest bell peppers. Another microbe is going to digest pizza. If you keep giving your body donuts, you will feed those microbes. They will become bigger and stronger, and they will connect to your brain to ask for more of it, because that's the biggest microbes you have in your gut, donuts. So what's going to happen is going to send a signal to your brain to ask for more donuts, because those want to be fed. And if you keep feeding donuts, you keep keeping those microbes very healthy. They're strong, but they keep asking for more and more and more. If you feed the ones for pizza, they will ask for more pizza. But guess what? If you start feeding the ones for bell peppers, they will start asking for more bell peppers. That's why some people call it the gut brain. You feed it, and whatever you feed it will connect to your brain, those microbes, and they will ask for more of it. So the microbiome needs to be healthy if you want to be healthy. If you keep feeding it donuts, it will ask for more donuts. If you feed it vegetables, it will ask for more vegetables. A person who is used to eating salads and vegetables, they actually get very hungry when they see vegetables because they love them. They want more of it because they have a gut bacteria that wants more vegetables. Why vegetables? For many reasons. They have the best vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, vegetables. And I get it. I get it. Some people are saying that vegetables, they're not as good because they are coming with chemicals and all of this stuff that people's arguments are about vegetables. Yes, yes, I get it. They are not the perfect vegetables of the past, but they are still better than the artificial stuff in packaged food. Even though they're not perfect, they are better than processed foods. I can promise you that. Yes, vegetables are not what they used to be, but they are still better. I want to repeat that just to make it clear. I understand it. I understand the claims. But if you have processed foods, then you're getting no benefit. If you eat vegetables, you get a lot of benefit. And again, some chemicals in there. Now let's talk about fiber. The best source of fiber, vegetables. Second best source of fiber, grains. Third best source of fiber, fruits. Why do we need fiber? We have two different digestions in our body. We have enzymatic or chemical digestion, and we have mechanical digestion. So we have two different types of digestion. I want you to think of the proteins and the fats. They need enzymatic or chemical digestion. Again, not all of them, but most. Proteins and fats, especially from animals, they need chemical digestion. If you grab a piece of fish in between your fingers and you roll it, let's say you cook it and then you roll it in between your fingers, you're going to see that it becomes pasty. It starts to break down. So you do need a little bit of mechanical digestion, but most of it is still chemical. If you grab a piece of chicken, then it's a little harder. If you grab red meat, including pork, then you notice that in between your fingers, you can roll it and roll it and roll it, and it will never dissolve because it needs chemicals. That's the responsibility of your pancreas and your liver. When you eat any meat, especially red, pork, game, cattle, that piece of meat lands in your stomach, and your stomach now has to start releasing chemicals. Your liver releases bile, your pancreas releases amylase, lipase. There is other enzymes, 5 of them, I don't remember. But there is lipase, amylase, and bile. And these will dissolve your proteins. Chemical digestion, dissolve it. But you're putting to a lot of work on the pancreas and the liver. So you can get cirrhosis of the liver never drinking alcohol because of red meat, because that liver worked really hard to dissolve red meat all its life. Cirrhosis of the liver and a fatty liver can come from eating too much red meat. You can also get diabetes from eating red meat because the pancreas is working and working and working, and then eventually it gives up, cannot produce insulin, and then now we have diabetes from red meat. Then we have mechanical digestion, vegetables, grains, fruits. When you chew them, you start mechanical digestion, and then you're chewing, chewing, chewing. You're just breaking it into smaller and smaller pieces. It lands in your stomach, that vegetable. All of a sudden, your stomach cannot break it down with chemicals, so it will employ mechanical digestion. It means that your stomach will start churning and twisting and grinding, basically, all of those vegetables, fruits, and grains, and is using a lot of energy to break those down into smaller and smaller pieces. Smaller and smaller pieces. Work, work, work. You're using sugar to break down fiber, to break down vegetables, grains, and fruits. So you want to use that energy. The problem with fruits, and why it's the last source of fiber, that we don't want a lot of it, because it does have a lot of sugar. So the vegetables are the best, then grains is second, then fruits. So we have all of this movement in your stomach, breaking down fiber. The beautiful thing about fiber is that once it's broken down into tiny, tiny pieces, it goes in the toilet. We don't absorb it. Again, there is a soluble fiber, and I don't want to get into details. Just go and look about fiber. The nice thing about fiber too is that fat loves to attach to it. Once you have broken down fiber into smaller and smaller pieces, whatever fatty food you have eaten, some of that fat, not all of it, will coat that fiber, will grab that fiber and clump. And it creates this balls of fat and fiber, and they go into the toilet. So that's how you can lose weight by eating a lot of fiber. You can lower your sugars by eating a lot of fiber. So beautiful thing to do, fiber. You want more fiber in your diet. Now, let me talk about the liver. It plays a role in blood sugar regulation. The liver will release a lot of stuff. It has so many functions, but one of the functions is blood sugar regulation. And by the way, if you give the liver fructose, it will increase your triglycerides. If you give your liver alcohol, it will also increase your triglycerides, which is funny. Alcohol and fructose will raise your triglycerides, which is a fat. How is that so? Because the liver is a coin exchange organ. You give it fructose, you give it alcohol, and it exchanges for triglycerides. So triglycerides are up because of flours, sugar, sweets, candies, pastries, desserts, fruits, too much fruits, and alcohol. Okay, so be mindful of that if in case you have your triglycerides up. All right, so the liver works as a storage for sugar. It can store sugar from your meals and give it back to you. It gives it back to you at night when you sleep. So if you have dinner at 6 and you don't have breakfast until 6, the morning after, 12 hours, the liver will keep your sugar regulated through the night. So it will collect sugar from your meals, give it back to you when you sleep. It can also give you sugars if you get lost and you haven't eaten. When you skip meals, when you get lost, you go long hours without eating, your liver will give you sugars. And I know this is going to be controversial for some of you who practice intermittent fasting. So the liver will keep you alive when there is no food. If you don't eat your meals, if you don't have enough food, if you go long periods of time without food, your liver will give you sugars, whatever it collects through the day. The liver can also give you sugars in moments of stress. If you get stressed, this is a protective mechanism the body has developed for the liver. If you get stressed, that means you're in danger. If you're in danger, you need to run away from danger. To run away from danger, you need energy. Where does that energy come from? Sugar, from your liver. So it can also give you sugar in moments of stress. Whatever it has collected, it will give it to you. But it can also become a factory of sugar. If, let's say, I get lost in the woods and I stay in the woods for longer than a day, my liver will go from being a storage organ to a factory organ. It will make sugars for me to keep me alive. That's why we can find people alive days, weeks later if they didn't have any food. Without water, no, not so much. Only about 2 days, 2 to 3 days at most without water. Without food, weeks. So the liver functions as a blood sugar regulator when there is no food in your stomach, when you sleep, when you're lost in the woods, or if you're stressed. If you're stressed, it doesn't matter where it came from. Your liver will give you sugar to keep you alive, to save you, to make you run away from danger. This is something about stress. We tend to just live with it. You don't have to. I mean, again, stress is part of life and we tend to accept it. And yes, in a sense, it is part of life. The problem is that we do nothing about it. We have to address stress. If I get stressed in the morning, let's say on my way to work, my liver will release a lot of sugar because it thinks I'm in danger. I am being chased by a lion. So my liver will give me sugar. If I stay in that state of stress, if let's say all day long I remain stressed, then my liver will give me sugar all day long. That means I have to address my stress. If I get stressed in the morning on my way to work, I have to immediately do something about it. Now, the liver will release sugar. That I have no control over. It will release sugar the moment I become stressed. It's staying in that state that is the problem. So I have to do something about it. I have to lower these stress levels by meditation, guided imagery, visualization, listening to a song, reading a book, playing an instrument, watering plants, listening to a bird singing. It doesn't matter. Just address your stress so that you don't stay in the whole day with your sugars being elevated because of your stress levels. Do something about that stress. And as I was going to say earlier regarding those smokers, they get stressed. Let's say they are inside the office, it's becoming stressful. remove themselves, they go outside, and they do deep breathing. It is not the cigarette that is helping them with stress relief. It is the act of deep breathing. So it is the behavior. They remove themselves, they go outside, 5 minutes of deep breathing. Of course, they use the cigarette as a tool, but it would be much better if they didn't use the cigarette. It's just that they have that as a tool. They remove themselves, deep breathing, they come back a little more relaxed. That's something that we should all be doing. Not having a good circadian rhythm is also very stressful. So stress can come from bills, from work, from relationships, but it can also come from not having a good circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm. You can look it up. We all have this internal clock. If our internal clock is all over the place, when we sleep, when we eat, when we exercise, if we are having changes in hours, one day we do this at this hour, another day we do the same thing at a different hour. Not having a good circadian rhythm is very, very, very stressful on the body. Same thing with sleeping. Circadian rhythm. This is something plants have, animals have. So if you have a pet, you have probably seen that they eat at the same time or they go to bed at the same time. They have this circadian rhythm. We have it as humans. It's just that as we become adults, if you remember, if you ever have kids, you can see that toddlers, they have a schedule. We have it. It's just that we ignore it. But that's what's creating so much problem in our society. Our circadian rhythm is all over the place. Or we work Monday through Friday, we have a circadian rhythm, everything is beautiful. Saturday, Sunday, we break the circadian rhythm. That routine goes out the window. We wake up whenever we want, we eat whenever we want. Then Monday comes and we feel awful. Why do we feel awful on Mondays? Because we broke our circadian rhythm. Our body did not like it. So now it's making us feel awful. That was the circadian rhythm. We are supposed to eat at the same time every day, sleep at the same time every day, and exercise the same amount every day at about the same time. So in reality, a routine, oh my God, that is so boring, Byron. I don't want to do that. That's what it takes to have health. Or you don't have to. Again, you don't have to do it, but your health will never be optimal. We need a circadian rhythm. We need a routine, consistency. How much we sleep, how much we eat, how much we exercise, when we eat, when we sleep, when we exercise. And medications are the same, making sure that you take your medications at the same time if you are on medications every day. The problem is one day we sleep 5 hours, the next day we sleep 10 hours. One day we exercise, the next day we do absolutely nothing. One meal we eat heavy, the next meal we eat tiny, tiny little salad because we want to make it up. One day we don't eat, one day we skip meals. One day we eat too much, one day we eat too little. We are just doing all of these changes and our circadian rhythm is all over the place. Our body is completely stressed all day, every day, even if you don't have stresses from the outside. So sleep comes in there as well, making sure that you get to bed at the same time every day, wake up at the same time every day. How much sleep? Don't believe the 8 hours thing. I don't like numbers. You will probably hear me a lot in my episodes in the future. I don't like numbers. I don't like to tell you that you need 8 hours of sleep. There is no such thing. We all have different needs. It has to do with the quality of sleep. If we are deep sleepers, less hours. If we are light sleepers, we need more hours. Some people function really well on 6.5 hours, and some people need 10 to 11 hours. Once you find out how much sleep you need, that's what you have to stick to. The amount of sleep you need differs from one person to the next. So make sure you find that. Exercise is great. Exercising and the new studies, and this is what our grandparents knew, exercising all day is the best way to do it. Even if you're doing 2-3 minutes here and there all day long. This is what's happening in our society. We sit for 8 hours at a desk, and then we go to the gym for 30 minutes to an hour. Those 8 hours, the damage that happened during 8 hours cannot be undone by 30 minutes to an hour at the gym. I'm sorry. I know. But the new study is we should exercise all day long, move all day long, all day long. So if you have a standing desk, all day long, just march at your desk. tense your muscles, there is something called isometric exercises, chair exercises, bed exercises. If you are in a bed or if you're watching a show, just sit down and lift those legs, do something, move all day. Our bodies are machines, and those machines need to move. It's kind of weird to think about it from that perspective. Our bodies are designed to work, not to sit down. They're designed to work, do work. Exercise is great. Not only does it help you lose weight, of course, which is why people do it, but that shouldn't be the motivation here. What should be your motivation to exercise is that you are burning sugar. You're eating and you're burning. And that's why exercising all day is recommended. You're supposed to load on energy and then burn that same energy. Load up on energy, burn it. Load up, burn it. Like our grandparents did it. We load up on energy all day long, and then we want to burn it all out in 30 minutes at the end of our day. The body is really good at storing. That's the problem. We're swimming upstream basically. Our body is great at storing energy. So don't let it store it. Eat it, load up on the energy, burn it. That is the key. One thing that exercise does is that it reduces something called insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance is something that happens to every human on earth. As we get older, we develop insulin resistance. If you go and look at the membrane of our cells, just Google it, just go on your browser of choice and search for cell membrane. That membrane is made by fats, lipids. Okay, so that's what's making the walls of our cells. Insulin resistance develops from age. As we get older, our cells become a little thicker on their membranes, a little older. They don't respond as well. But we can accelerate insulin resistance by what we do with our diet. If I eat a high fat diet, I'm not saying the person has to be overweight. Let's not think that way. If I have a high fat diet, even if I don't gain a single pound from it, I am coating my cells with a little bit more fat. That cell wall becomes thicker with fat. So when insulin comes to touch the cell, this is how it works. Insulin is released from your pancreas, goes to your cells, knocks on the door, open up please. And then once your cell opens, sugar goes inside. That's the role of insulin. Insulin is supposed to come in, touch the cell opens, sugar goes in. That's happening even when you're just sleeping. Once insulin knocks, when sugar goes in, if the cell responds. But if the cell has a thicker wall, what happens with that insulin? It comes, touches the cell did not detect it. So then what happens to that insulin? It goes away, it gets absorbed. Then the pancreas has to release another insulin, touches the cell didn't open. Then the pancreas has to produce another insulin. Now it finally opens up. That is insulin resistance. It took 3, of course. Again, I'm using an arbitrary number here. It can use 3 or 4 or 5 insulins to open the cell for one sugar. That's insulin resistance. The beautiful thing about exercise is that it reduces the load on the pancreas. When the pancreas goes to touch a body that is in action, your cells cannot afford to only take one sugar in. What it does is it opens wide and it pulls sugar. It becomes active. That's what you want to do with exercise. You activate your cells. So one insulin comes, touches the cell. By the way, exercise removes that little coating a little bit. It kind of it makes the walls thinner because that's what exercise is doing. It's removing some of that fat from around your cells. So now the insulin comes, touches the cell. The cell is now very sensitive to insulin. It opens wide. 10 sugars go inside the cell. So instead of one insulin to one sugar, now we have one insulin to 10 sugars. The pancreas has to produce less insulin to get us a lot of sugar inside your cells. Less insulin for more sugar. So that's how it helps. It reduces insulin resistance and it helps bring sugar inside your cells with a lot more efficiency. Okay, now I want to finish my episode with this. The work I mentioned earlier. We need to work. if we want to have health longer. Not to live longer, but to have health longer. The problem we have in our society is that people want that easy fix. They want that pill, that magic medication. But we land in this vicious cycle. The doctors will give you more medicine. If that's all you want, they will give you more medicine. But if you go into the world and you don't change your behaviors, sugars go back up again, your blood pressures go up, your heart rates go up, they give you more medication. Then you go back to the doctor. Can I have more medication? But you don't change your lifestyle. You don't change your behaviors. Sugar goes back up, blood pressure goes up again, heart rate goes up. You go back to your doctor and then you ask for more medications. Your doctors are really just giving you what you want. Do you want to do the work? Then you're going to have to work. The medications are only doing a little bit of work. You still have to work, even if you are on medications. The problem is that people get their sugars lower when they are on hypoglycemics. That's the diabetes medicines. You get on diabetes medicines, it lowers your sugars. You don't feel great because you're so used to having your sugars above average or above normal. So you don't feel great. I don't feel great, so I'm hungry now. Let me eat more. You eat more, sugars go back up. The doctor will give you more medication. But then your sugars are coming down. You don't feel great. You bring it back up. Your doctor will give you more medication. We are in that circle, and don't blame the doctors for this. It seems that most people do not want to change behavior. And that's the reason why they do it. Most people. I'm telling you that. If you want to do the work, if you really don't want medications, the work is hard. You're going to have to do the work. There is no way to avoid it. Or keep taking the medications, but that will never solve your problems. We have to change our behaviors. Medications are only doing a percentage of the work, even if you're on medications. They're only doing about 30, 40% at best of the work. You still have to do the 60. But if you want to rely on medications to just do the work for you, we're going to end up in this little circle, and we blame the doctors, and we blame the healthcare system, and we blame the healthcare insurances because they keep rising our prices, and they keep giving us medications because we are giving what we want. We are being sold what we buy. We are given what we consume. And that takes me to sugar as well. You want more sugar in your food? You buy more sweet food? They will keep adding more sugar to your food. You keep buying that food that is unhealthy? They'll keep selling you unhealthy foods. You keep asking for more medications? They will raise those prices and they'll keep giving you more medications. So the responsibility is all of ours. We have to do the work. I hope if you're still here with me, you 20-year-old, you start today. You're already late. Start today. Eat your 3 meals per day. Vegetables in all 3 meals. Do not snack. Please stop the snacking. Do not have any dessert after dinners. Avoid completely the sweet drinks. Eliminate them 100% from your diet. Teas, coffee lightly sweetened, water. That's all we can have. And when I say we, I mean every human on earth. So I want to close with take care of your health. Work hard. Because if you don't work hard for your health, you will work hard for a disease or a chronic condition.